Homestuck is the most disappointing thing ever made. And I don't say thing to use the word webcomic lightly. I mean, it's one of the most disappointing things ever. In spite of this, I didn't think it was a bad read. In fact, I recommend you read it yourself. I thought it was interesting, a spectacle, to watch a man, a creator, an artist, build himself up on a tower of ideas, and then when things got too hot, as he neared towards the sun, he took a swan dive and spaghettied all over the pavement. Now, if you just want a gist or a taste of why it's bad, look no further, because I don't have that much time either. I've looked up a list of 5 amateur writing mistakes, and I found 2 articles that consist of 5 amateur writing mistakes. So I'm just going to use their list to prove why Andrew Hussey is not a good writer. From the creative pen, number 1, show, don't tell. The panels in this webcomic are not very descriptive, and the dialogue is portrayed entirely through chat logs. This comic is more or less entirely telling, and maybe a few spurs of showing. There's nothing that's very subtle at all. Number 2, consistent point of view. The point of view changes spastically and without warning and without reason. Occasionally it'll switch the viewpoint of an inanimate object. This would be funny. This kind of thing is done without humor later on, so it kills the joke. Number 3, deliver on the promise you make the reader. Number 4, overuse of first names in dialogue. I don't understand why that's an issue, though what I can say is there are a lot of first names being used. There's also a lot of fake first names being used, a lot of names in general. Number 5, overuse of exclamation marks. Some characters will overuse punctuation more often than necessary. It's meant to show emotion, but really all it shows is that the writer cannot portray emotion through words. From the Novel Factory. Number 6, my punctuation, grammar, and vocabulary are terrible. Punctuation, as I said earlier, can get a little eccentric. Grammar is a bit loose, but it makes sense because they're writing over the internet. There are a couple things that are made ambiguous, but it's fine for the most part. Vocabulary, I do have an issue with. Occasionally, he'll make up words, and the words aren't really indicative of what he's trying to say. And when he does use more historic language, it's not really to the benefit of the story or even the reader. Number 7, I expect when I get an editor, they'll sort all that stuff out. Number 8, I like to break the rules because I think it makes me edgy. If you would like to learn more about this point of contention, please stick around after this segment. Number 9, I want to be a writer, but I don't have the time. I didn't start reading until after the webcomic finished, but I heard that there were a lot of hiatuses in the comics updating, and most of them were unexplained or a lot longer than they should have been. And he wasn't necessarily on vacation either. Number 10, people don't like my work because they don't understand the genius of it. I've tried to find a video where he calls his own work a masterpiece, but I can't, though there is some fairly solid proof that he thinks he's actually making the Ulysses of the internet, and if it came out one day that he honestly thought that what he made was akin to the works of Shakespeare, I wouldn't be surprised. He has a fairly massive ego. You might be asking yourself, What was this review for? Well, it can't be to make the webcomic better, because the webcomic is ended. And it can't be an open letter to the fans, because the fans are disbanded. And it can't be an open letter to the creator, because he's a crazy person.
And all that matters is the bucket.
Yeah, all right.
Let's just fill this bucket.
Well, we've got professional,
Okay.
and for Canada, Andrew Hussey is going to fill this bucket. So, let's get started.
Alright, I'm filling it behind the table so that not everybody can see this obscene display.
Now, chicka bow wow.
Yeah. Alright.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello.
Do I like Shrek?
Yes. Do you like Shrek?
He's alright. The nacho sticker. They smell like pizza.
If you can't handle me at my Donald Trump, then you don't deserve me at my Bernie Sanders.
This review is entirely for myself and my own catharsis. I will not provide any fancy editing. I will not provide any music. There will be no quips. There will be no snappy remarks. The most I can offer is a couple whimsical observations and a few jokes. This is a cold dead analysis of a cold dead work. It's an in-depth look on how to not tell a story. This is gonna show you Homestuck. The first act is considered by fans to be the worst act, and for that reason, it's actually the best act. Furthermore, it's the best act because it has the best ending, in which the entire state of Washington blows up in a fiery explosion. If the webcomic had ended there, it may have been a pretty good comic. It would have been a nice experiment, but it had to go on, and then it just keeps going and going. I'm not going to show you that part though, because it takes time and effort, so I'm just going to show you the static image. Homestuck is about this kid with ADHD, turns his room upside down trying to find his medication, but he can't find his medication. He loses track and then goes downstairs to get the mail, and he goes back upstairs, and he goes back down, and he goes back up again, and then he plays a game, and then he dies, but then he doesn't. I wanted to run this panel through MS Paint a few times to make it look as grainy and cheesy as possible, but frankly, that takes efforts. I don't feel like doing that. But what I did do is run it through MS Paint once, so hopefully you can get a few artifacts. Acquiring this panel, the text says that he likes movies, does computers, and wants to be a magician. Two of those things are never brought up again, and the one that is relevant is so stupid I cannot believe it stuck around. This webcomic will make you understand that the main character likes really bad movies. The comic spends about 20 panels showing you bad movies that he hangs on his wall. The movies in question don't tie in thematically to this comic. He just likes bad movies because he does, and there's no explanation for that. It's a shame that the computer magic thing wasn't played upon, because those could have tied in better to the plot. You know, he could have been a wizard and someone who uses a computer. But liking genuinely bad movies is not a good character trait in fiction or in real life. Homestuck is full of strange enigmas, though possibly the biggest Homestucking enigma is how this cake moves. I've watched this cake move for a while, and I just can't figure it out. How does the cake move? It looks like it's getting picked up by a cursor, but what exactly is the cursor? Later in the act, the cursor shows up again, but it only interacts with game objects. And then after Act 2, it doesn't even show up ever again. It's not even mentioned. There's no mention of a cursor. It's like this cursor didn't exist. But if the cursor doesn't exist, how does the cake move? I cannot figure this one out. It completely disjoints the plot for me. There's another part where a little kid is smoking. There's this one really weird part where the kid attacks his dad with a hammer. And I don't know why he attacked him with a hammer. There's no setup. He just kind of does it. And this comes into conflict with the plot. Later, the comic tries to have some touching moments between the kid and his dad. They don't make any sense because just a few hours ago, the kid tried to kill his dad with a hammer. He just blunt barrages him. I don't know why he did this. I don't know why this comic exists. I can't show you what happened because it's an interactive flash, and that'd take a really long time to film. So you have to trust me on this when I say it's absolutely absurd and non sequitur. I don't have anything else to talk about, so I'm just going to talk over this pinata. Most of the things that happen in this act are only bad in hindsight. You have to see the rest of the comic to know why they don't make any sense. So I'll be referring back to this act in later episodes. But for now, this should give you a gist on why this webcomic is so terrible. But later, it gets slightly better, but then it gets really bad. Like, if you thought this was bad, you should see what happens later, because, man, it gets real bad. It gets real bad, you guys. Stop watching right now because these videos are cursed. They discuss a cursed artifact of the internet. Now, I'm going to rate this act. I'm going to rate it a 2 out of 10. 2 because I have 2 hands. But I'm going to rate this pinata a 7 out of 10 because, man, that's a good pinata. Alright, see you guys later. Over and out. Please check out my website. Please check out my Twitter. Check out this pinata because whoa damn, aren't I quirky for bringing up something completely unrelated.